Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are tackling the protein puzzle. For anyone managing chronic kidney disease, diet is absolutely critical. But the advice you get on protein can be, well, a total mess. So we're going to try to make some sense of it. For decades, there's been one golden rule for kidney health: cut back on protein. Simple, right? But what if that advice isn't just a little outdated? What if it's actually wrong? Right now, that simple rule is at the center of a major scientific debate. All right, so to really get what's happening now, we have to rewind a bit. Let's look at the original logic, why less protein became the go-to rule in the first place. The idea was really intuitive, actually. Just picture your kidneys as a filter that's already strained. Maybe it's a little damaged, a little overworked. The logic was, hey, if you want that filter to last longer, you have to lighten its workload. Makes sense, right? And here's how that thinking broke down step by step. Okay, so first, you eat protein. Then, your body breaks it down and creates waste products, like urea, which get into your blood. Step 3, your kidneys have to step in and filter all that waste out. So the conclusion felt pretty unavoidable. Less protein in means less waste for the kidneys to handle. And for years, that was the cornerstone of kidney diet advice. But of course, if the logic was really that simple, we wouldn't be here. The whole thing starts to get messy when you actually look at the evidence, or really, the lack of agreement in it. And this is where it gets really confusing. You've got a direct conflict. On one hand, the kidney disease guidelines say to restrict protein to about 0.8 grams per kilogram of body weight. But then you look at the guidelines for older adults, and they recommend at least 1.0 grams per kilogram to stop them from losing muscle and becoming frail. So what's an older person with kidney disease supposed to do? This quote from an expert review this year just hits the nail on the head. It says, the best studies we have, the gold standard randomized controlled trials, have come up with conflicting results. And when the best evidence is all over the place, well, the guidelines are going to be all over the place too. That uncertainty is why this whole conversation is changing. So the debate really heated up when scientists started to focus on the other side of the coin. They started asking a really tough question. By focusing so hard on protecting the kidneys, are we actually doing more harm than good to the rest of the body? See, the big worry here is that seriously restricting protein isn't a free lunch. It can lead to a kind of malnutrition, it can speed up muscle loss as we age, and in kids, it can even affect their growth. And here's the real kicker. By lowering those waste products in the blood, you might actually hide the very symptoms that tell a doctor someone needs more serious care, like dialysis. All these concerns pushed researchers to find some better data. In a huge study from 2024, which looked at over 8,500 older adults with kidney disease, gave us what might be a real turning point in this whole debate. And this is where the old story gets flipped on its head. In this massive group, when they compared people to the standard low-protein recommendation, they found that eating just a bit more, 1 gram per kilogram, was linked to a 12% lower risk of dying. Go up to 1.2 grams, and that's a 21% lower risk. And at 1.4 grams, a 27% lower risk. So for this group, eating more protein was clearly linked to living longer. Okay, so all of this has led to this huge shift in thinking, moving away from just counting protein grams and instead looking at the quality and the pattern of the entire diet. It turns out where your protein comes from could be even more important than how much you eat. Plant-based proteins, from things like beans and lentils, they create less of what's called an acid load for your body to deal with. That means less work for the kidneys. On the flip side, animal proteins, especially red meat, can increase that acid load and have been linked to a higher risk of kidney problems getting worse. Right? So instead of just obsessing over protein grams, the new focus is on adopting healthy eating patterns that we know work. Take the Mediterranean diet. It's linked to a lower risk of death for people with CKD. And plant-based diets, they're amazing for helping with things like blood pressure and blood sugar, which are both super important for kidney health. Now, if there's one thing that pretty much all the experts agree on, it's this: stay away from ultra-processed foods. And look, we're not just talking about something like canned beans. We're talking about industrial formulations. Think packaged snacks, sugary drinks, frozen dinners. They're jam-packed with hidden sodium, potassium, and phosphorus that you won't even see on the label, and they're being linked more and more to kidney disease. It's so important to remember that diet is a huge tool, but it's just one tool in the box. You've got to think of it as working with everything else, like lifestyle changes and some really powerful new medicines called SGLT2 inhibitors that are a total game changer for protecting the kidneys. It's all part of a complete plan. Okay, so what do you do with all this? How do you make sense of the conflicting advice? Well, it's all about trading in that old, rigid rule book for a personalized roadmap. For the longest time, everything in kidney care seemed to spin around just one number, your GFR. That's your kidney function score. But what we know now is that one number just isn't the whole story, not even close. So the new way of doing things uses a grid, kind of like a heat map, to get a much better picture of your actual risk. It looks at two key things together: your GFR, that kidney function score, and your albuminuria, which is a fancy word for how much protein is leaking into your urine. And looking at them together is the magic here. For example, someone with a GFR of, say, 50 could be at moderate risk, or they could be at very high risk. It all depends on that second number. This changes everything for personalizing your care. So this is the new playbook. First, get a complete picture: your GFR, your albuminuria, your age, all of it. Second, focus on healthy eating patterns, not just one nutrient. Third, think about protein quality. Lean into those plant-based sources. 4, kick those ultra-processed foods to the curb. And number 5, and this is a big one, don't go it alone. Work with a professional team to build a plan just for you. And that leads us to the one thing everyone agrees on. Yeah, this quote really says it all. You can't overstate how important a specialized renal dietitian is. That old one-size-fits-all rule, it's out. It just doesn't work. Having an expert guide to build a safe and effective plan is absolutely essential. So here's the bottom line. We're throwing out the old, simple rulebook because, well, it might just be flawed. The future of kidney health isn't about following a rule. It's about creating a personalized roadmap based on your specific risk and your goals. So the real question now is, what does your roadmap look like? That's the conversation you need to have with your healthcare team.